listening to her, it seems more like a real democracy, so to say, than, you know, like when we keep listening to Reagan and we listen to Bush and we listen to the caucus and everybody, you know, like they say things, but you don't get that feeling deep down in your gut that they're actually going to be dealing with these things that they're talking about. And from Sister Fulani, I mean, like I felt like she was really for real and that these things were really, really possible, you know, because I think you get so much of the same political garbage all the time that you just look, I mean, when somebody comes through with something that's really real, I mean, you can't help but see it because you're so used to the dull garbage that we're being fed all the time.
Lenora Fulani was the first African-American and the first woman to wage a nationwide presidential campaign. In 50 states in the District of Columbia, the American public had the opportunity to vote for a leftist, pro-gay African-American candidate. Fulani urged African-Americans, Latinos, Indians, gays, progressives, and all oppressed people to break their 50-year-old relationship to the Democratic Party and build a progressive pro-people third party. On November 8, 1988, more than 200,000 cast their vote for Fulani, thus establishing her and the New Alliance Party as the undisputed masters of progressive electoral politics in the United States. In the next hour, we will meet Fulani voters, the leaders of a new independent mass movement. They are the rainbow, black, brown, red, yellow, and white. They are Christians, Muslims, Jews, and non-believers, gay and straight, welfare mothers, and middle-class professionals. Yet a single thread binds them all together, their desire to build a black-led progressive third party in this country. Why did they vote for Fulani? What was different about 1988? What is their social agenda?
I heard about Dr. Fulani through the New Alliance paper, really, and through the campaign itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I heard about the Fulani campaign by being active in the New Alliance Party, even prior to the Fulani campaign. I remember I became a member of the New Alliance Party in 1986. This is before the Fulani campaign even began. So just by being involved in the independent black-led political movement, I know about the campaign even from at its inception.
A woman knocked on my door and told me about her. I had never heard of her. And
why'd you let her in?
Because she told me that she was an avid Jesse Jackson supporter, but that in case things didn't work out for Jesse, that she would be a backup. And I thought, oh, come in.
So you were an avid Jesse Jackson supporter?
Yes, I was. I still am. But
you worked on his campaign?
Yes, I did.
Were you with the Rainbow Coalition?
Yes, in fact, I'm a member right now.
She was the only person on the political horizon I knew of that stood for some of the things I think we need in this country. An end to militarism, a progressive tax situation, an end to intervening in the affairs of little helpless countries, environmentalism, and in general just a new way of looking at things.
I supported Dr. Fulani because she represents the feelings, the insight, and the views that I want for myself. She's a very dynamic person. She knows our needs. She cares about us. And she's politically aware. And she's not just beating a drum. She really wants to change things for us.
Well, she seems to be primarily for the people and not profit, like welfare people.
Anything else that attracted you to her?
And she was very interested in the fair election.
Mm-hmm.
I believe very strongly that right now the most vulnerable person in America is the working young black American mother, especially if she's a single mother. She's the one that history demands she act and we support.
Mm-hmm. And you saw the Fulani campaign addressing that?
I saw Fulani standing out and addressing that in a very significant and bold way, and I think that's what it's going to take.
It appealed to me as a woman, a lot of women's issues. It appealed to me as a mother with sons growing up in this world. It appealed to me as a teacher. I've been teaching for almost 20 years now, and my students are the kids who are shut out of the system. I teach special ed, kids labeled behavior disordered, and I've given them a lot, but I can't do any more by myself. I feel that working with this coalitional movement, that they can have a place in society that is not in the welfare lines, that is not in the jails, that is not in the street, and that this is what's really going to make a difference. Dr. Fulani's candidacy, I think, has brought people together that otherwise might not be working together.
There was that kind of withdrawal on the part of Mr. Dukakis from any association with what he called the L word, any kind of liberal agenda, but I'm a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, and I always have been, and I believe in the ACLU platforms, and I believe that the Democratic Party ought to have been the party should have been the Liberal Party, but at this point at least, for reasons which are inexplicable, it seemed that George Bush was more of a liberal in the end than Mr. Dukakis. Mr. Dukakis was approached over and over again. There was an attempt made to, draw him out on this issue, to see if he would be willing to come forward. And when he was asked about agendas, he constantly talked about, well, providing special kinds of benefits to people so they could send their children to college. That's important, but that isn't the biggest issue facing the nation. Mm-hmm. And the issues that dealt with the homeless and with the rights of minorities and such were never addressed by either one of the candidates in any profound way.
I feel like left out, like you said, in the other party. And I wasn't particularly interested in both candidates and both parties. And when I heard about the message of Dr. Fulani, I was really impressed. And I wanted to vote for somebody that I feel comfortable with, that I want.
How about you, Hodge?
I think that, as I mentioned earlier in the interview, that there are a lot of disenfranchised people throughout this country. And for the most of them are disenfranchised because they are the less privileged. And I think that's morally wrong. I think because you are not of the wealthy class, should not be a reason to have your human rights denied, or for you to feel that you are less than a first-class citizen. We're all first-class citizens by God's ordination, not by yours or mine. So I think that what I see here is a certain amount of people who traditionally have been Democrats, like myself and my family, but because the Democratic Party has become so comparable to the Republican Party here, there's not a great deal of difference. They are both very much interested in larger interests, corporate interests, if you will, big money interests, if you will, and there are a lot of human things that need to be addressed. And I found this particular season that the Democratic Party has other agenda, and they are not as concerned, or not at least showing the concern that I think that was there traditionally, which brought my family to the party and which got me into the party. Well, for years I became a little bit negligent. I sort of fell out of the political system because I figured that one was no different from the other. I had no particular interest, and I never found a person that truly represented me. I was voting, instead of issues, I was voting personalities and traditions. I said, this is nonsense. I should vote real issues, and I want my party to start addressing these issues. They weren't there. So if it weren't for the NAP, I would have no political participation in the system this season. So I see this, if this was my experience, how many more people are out there who are not participating for similar reasons? They find no vehicle to participate with.
I just voted for Fulani. I contributed some money. And really that's all. And then I talked to, well actually I brought Fulani's name up whenever I got a chance. I was in a meeting of the AAUW and...
What's that?
American Association of University Women. I do not belong to that, but well, I do belong to the Feminist Writers Guild, and it was a joint meeting. And there was the speaker at this meeting had said that that American women didn't have the nerve to run for president, and he was talking about Pat Schroeder not having the nerve to run and things like this. And so that really annoyed me, because there was a woman running for president, and he was saying that no American woman had the nerve to run for president when there was one on the ticket.
So what did you say?
Well, I raised my hand and I said, there is a woman running for president. And she's on the ticket in every state in the union, and so her name's Honor Fulani. So why do you say that that no woman has the nerve to run for president?
I distributed Dr. Fulani's literature. I also teamed up with Reverend Ferguson on the south side of Chicago, who held 2 fundraisers, and I also joined with Reverend Ferguson and assisted her in her fundraiser.
Well, I came to Atlanta because the Fulani campaign seemed as if it was a strong campaign dealing directly with the have-nots, the street people, and I felt that I could lend my support.
And did you bring any people with you from Savannah?
Sure. We brought a bus up, but we only had about 10, 15 people with us.
So what did you do in the Fulani campaign after the Democratic Convention?
Well, we are still soliciting signatures in the Savannah area, you know, trying to make sure that Dr. Fulani was on the ballot, and just generating and trying to gain votes in Savannah, in the Savannah area for Dr. Fulani.
I don't define controversy from someone else's point of view. You know, if someone has a disagreement with what I believe in, that's their problem. It's not my problem. Right. Okay, I acknowledge it as maybe something that I have to be aware of, certainly, and have to deal with. You always do that. But see, to me, it's not a controversy if someone else doesn't like what I'm about. Because what am I supposed to do then? Not be what I'm about just because they don't like it? So, I mean, anytime black people or poor people or oppressed people stand up and say, we don't like the status quo, from their point of view, that's a controversy, you know.
I'll be very perfectly honest with you, being a Jew, have a little problem, not as much of a problem as I had last year, with you know, the repudiation of Farrakhan, for instance. Okay.
I was going to ask you that.
I'm a mind reader. And I'm learning now that the black agenda, as put out by Dr. Fulani, is a very correct agenda, and that as a white progressive, Jewish white progressive person, as a gay person, as a person with AIDS, I would find it very important that I work towards that end, to work for the black agenda as Dr. Fulani has put out. And again, back to Farrakhan, the Farrakhan agenda is very similar in that sense. And I can't see Farrakhan as being a racist. I am as anti-Zionist as Farrakhan. So you might say we both believe in the same thing.
Right.
So I embrace him. I would like someday to meet him.
Weren't you afraid that people would say, oh, well, you're supporting this Fulani, she's really a communist?
No, it doesn't bother me that people would say something like that. Those are just labels. It wouldn't bother me if she was a communist. Actually, I'm not opposed to their political ideology anyway.
Mm-hmm. So, but what if people start saying, well, you must be one too?
What, that I'm a communist?
Yeah.
They can call me whatever they like. I think that my position on things, my viewpoint, my outlook on things are basically pro-human and just, and sometimes people that are in favor of programs and in favor of efforts to help people and to help people improve their conditions. Sometimes they are labeled as communists or socialists or whatever type of dirty label that people can think of. But I basically consider my view on things as in support of humanity.
I think that most of your gay and lesbian organizations in this country pretty much end up bowing down to whoever's going to be put in office, so that they, what's the word I want to use? They just want to make sure that they're still existing after either Bush or Dukakis was in office. I think that's the reason why they did attack Fulani the way they did.
The people who are supposedly our political leaders within the gay community, I mean, it's a common sense sort of thing. Backing up a candidate who's anti-gay is in itself a downturn of the movement. It's like leading us to gas chambers.
From across the nation, a message is coming in loud and clear. Fulani's campaign was not only a success in tapping the progressive sentiments of grassroots America, but it is the leading edge of a potentially explosive popular electoral political movement. Out of Washington, D.C.'s drug-plagued Mayfair Manor, the police-occupied streets of Watts, the cornfields of Middle America, and even the affluent white suburbs of Chicago, a movement is taking shape. But the New People's Movement develops in a climate of profound crisis for the American ruling class, a crisis marked by growing repression against people of color, gays, and anyone else who dares to challenge, consciously or by simply existing, the mom and apple pie political, cultural, and social mysticism of the American empire. Hunger, homelessness, disease, unemployment, and economic exploitation are today wrapped in the flag and labeled the two-party electoral system. The majority of the American people reject it out of hand. They don't vote. A small plurality elects an ever more right-wing cast of Republican corporate thugs to the executive branch of government. Meanwhile, the Democrats, whose only beef with the Republicans amounts to little more than a difference over style in implementing anti-people policies, collect their checks in city halls, county seats, state legislatures, and in Congress for a job well done, disorganizing and co-opting any genuine grassroots effort to broaden democracy and apply substantive reforms to a dying system. The rainbow speaks from the ashes of petty bourgeois-led black empowerment politics, the strategy of electing black faces to high places, only to become the fetish mask of white supremacy. It thunders over the hollow rhetoric of the establishment gay leadership, strung out like political junkies on the horse of Democratic Party jobs and grants. Their gay agenda is white, mainly male, middle class, and in the closet. The rainbow drowns out the sanctimonious prattle of the U.S. left, which has floundered for 50 years in the swamps of vulgar Marxism. Their politics are set to a liturgical chorale of non sequiturs, banalities, and rationalizations for their own impotence, racism, and opportunism, while working, poor, and oppressed people have gone wanting for revolutionary leadership. The rainbow is independent, radical, and on the make. Moreover, it is self-validating, thus rejecting the siren call of the Democratic Party and its camp followers in the white-led, middle-class dominated progressive movement. It speaks for itself, of itself.
I feel like right now, I mean, I'm being more educated towards, you know, political situations that we've been in all along. And, you know, although some people were telling me that when I was at the polls and passing out leaflets about Dr. Fulani, they were saying that, like, a vote for her was a wasted vote. And I felt like no vote at all was a wasted vote. And a vote for her was, like, really making a statement, saying something, irregardless of the fact if she won or not. Just the fact to know that there's somebody there that would be talking about and doing the kind of things that you are truly interested in, that was, like, important to me.
So what about you, Peggy? Are things better now than they were, say, 20 years ago for you, or 10 years ago?
I think things are better, but we still got a long ways to go. You know, I think a lot of things that Martin Luther King believed in and ancestors that were before me that tried to get for us have happened, but it's still taking time for a lot of things to happen. Because here in this area, a lot of things happen, but when you go south or to some of these southern towns, you would think you're still in slavery or something. But I think, yes, Dr. Fulani is an example of things have changed. With Jesse Jackson, too. We had a black person running for president, whereas back in my mother days and time, that was unspeakable.
So, do you feel like you're left out? Do you feel that the two-party system in any way addresses your issues?
Yes, to some extent, because I very much believe in people, and I very much believe in people that believe in people of all types, races, and situations, and not just the rich.
Well, my feeling on that question is, like, I feel like the Democrats and the Republicans, to a large degree, they don't include. They say things that sound like they're including all people, but in reality, they're not. I mean, it's like the rich old boys. It's like certain people all the time are being dealt with and taken care of. And listening to Fulani and dealing with the independent party, I feel like the real issue in the real world, I mean, the real people are really being dealt with and being considered. The Republicans and the Democrats, I mean, just from the way that they dumped Jesse, the Democrats that is, shows me at least, that they're not real. I mean, if somebody gets 7.5 million votes, you know what I'm saying? That's a statement within itself. And then to just go and get somebody else, I just don't like the way that they dumped Jesse. You know, and I don't think they have no respect for us as a people. And I don't want to be respecting things that don't respect me. When they disrespect Jesse, they disrespect me. I see myself as a part of Jesse.
So, but Jesse took it. He didn't complain about
Well, I'm sorry that he didn't complain about it. For what reasons, I don't understand. But I feel like he should have really, you know, not to hurt his feelings or anything, but I really feel like he should have stood up and been a man at that point in time, because he had 7.5 million people who supported him, who made a statement with him, and that he had that, I mean, he had some strength behind him, and he should have made a statement at that time. The Democrats did not care for him. They do not respect him. You know what I'm saying? But I
think Jesse was afraid that he was going to lose respect of a lot of the big people, you know, if he had went a certain way. So that's why I mean, that's my honest opinion, you know, everybody's entitled to opinion. But I think he's more so looking at these big biggies, you know, that respect him, and if he complained or something, then he would lose their respect.
Well, these big biggies don't respect him. The 7.5 million people are real people who respected him. Those are the real people who heard what he was saying. Obviously, the big people did not hear what he said because they did not put him on the ticket.
My honest opinion
I would love to see Dr. Fulani and Jesse click together, even though that's my opinion and not theirs, maybe. But I think that would pull more votes too if those two could get together and compromise or come up with some type of way to get on the ticket.
I've been a member of the California Peace and Freedom Party since its inception, 1967. So I've always voted for the independent or for the underdog, if you will. And I haven't voted Democrat or Republican, I think, in my life. And it was exciting that Lenora Fulani became basically our candidate in California. She won, as far as I'm concerned, she won the primary, and she was the candidate, despite the obvious difficulties that the party had with its factions. So I got right on the bandwagon. I was very excited that a black woman, African-American woman who's pro-gay, ran for president. Did my best.
So what allowed you to make the transition from Peace and Freedom to New Alliance Party? Fulani campaign.
That's a long story, but maybe not so long. I have plenty of tape. Well, first of all, I have become, over the years, since 1980 especially, I've become very disillusioned with the Peace and Freedom Party.
Why?
Because the Peace and Freedom Party basically was giving lip service to minorities and was basically a very sexist party, a very racist party. People were not doing what they should have been doing. In other words, following the program of the Peace and Freedom Party, the platform of the Peace and Freedom Party to fight racism, fight sexism, to fight the powers to be, big business and so on. It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. It was a power-mad group of people hanging on to that little bit of party, keeping it on the ballot, and that's all. Doing nothing between elections. You've been ill for a number of years, and one of your primary concerns has been getting better. Yeah. One of the things that I'm doing in the New Alliance Party is trying very hard with other people with AIDS and ARC to form a special kind of a group dealing with our nutrition, our care, and how we can continue doing political work, how we can keep our stamina up, how we can support each other and be there for each other. Here in Los Angeles, there are only a few of us, but we meet quite regularly, and we're trying to build an idea out of our support group that will spread throughout the country and become part of the New Alliance Party viewpoint on people with AIDS and ARC.
There was several issues that she was addressing that I felt that the other presidential candidates were not addressing at the time. I asked for a copy for a platform, read her platform, and really felt that Dr. Fulani had a much better grip on what was going on really in the real world compared to the other two candidates.
What were some of those things?
In the platform?
Yeah.
Well, I was quite interested in her criminal justice part of the platform. As you know, I was a police officer for 5 years in the state of Florida. Some of the issues I didn't fully agree with, but at least the issues were being addressed, such as welfare, taxes, corporate taxes. She was addressing issues that drugs, AIDS, many issues that this country has not addressed, or is not going to address, whichever way you want to put it.
So you said that there were some things you didn't agree with?
Yes.
What? Like what?
Well, some of the criminal justice part of the platform, I had a little hard time agreeing with it. Unfortunately, I guess I view, coming from another side of the law enforcement justice system we have in this country, I wasn't in full agreement with such things as her capital punishment stand. Basically in that basic area.
Right, so you have a background as a drug enforcement agent.
Yes.
Okay. How did you see the Fulani campaign addressing itself to the drug problem here in this country?
Well, I think what was important about Dr. Fulani was at least she was admitting that the severity that we do have in this country. During the time that I was working drug enforcement in South Florida, Bush was the head of the enforcement down there. So several times I've had the opportunity to work with he and his people that he would send out.
You met him, didn't you?
Yeah. And Anyway, it's the issue was not being addressed by Bush. It's a severe problem, and it's just not being addressed. There was quite a few times in my thoughts wearing a uniform that I felt that I wasn't quite sure who was getting paid off, along with the smugglers, but at least I felt that Dr. Fulani at least was willing to address the issue, where nobody else was really addressing the issue.
Were drugs an issue for you, Doug?
Not to the degree that Mel is seemingly makes it, but that wasn't what really, the particulars of the platform weren't really my highest priority, but the sentiment of where she was trying to take people.
So tell me a little bit about that. How did you understand the sentiment?
Well, when I was listening to her, when I heard her at the fair at UDC for the first time, it was the power of her expression of various themes that were relevant, that were real, that dealt with the world as it is, and not some theoretical stage that a lot of politicians think the world is, some theoretical stage. And she was addressing and saying a lot of things. I said, this sister sounds a lot like me, you know, in my own thinking process, because I'm geared to doing things and dealing with the real world, and not just a hypothetical or philosophical background. And so, in trying to figure out what I was going to do politically, because I had almost basically said I was not even going to participate in the process this year, because I wasn't going to vote for either one of the white male candidates, major party candidates, and I was trying to figure out what I should do, because...
What were your options?
Well, there weren't really many, because I knew Jesse wasn't going to go anywhere, and in fact, I was kind of really disappointed in that he wasn't being more militant, more assertive in trying to press forward with a philosophy and an agenda that defines really what he should be about, or what I thought he was about. But yet he was trying to be more inclusive, but at the expense of the agenda that he said he was trying to fulfill. And that kind of, you can't be wishy-washy. You can't, in politics, you can't expect everyone to like you, and you shouldn't try to make everyone like you. You should say, this is what I stand for, and those people who are going to gravitate towards you are going to gravitate towards you, because I don't agree with everything no one says, and you should never really expect anyone to agree with everything you say, but people should at least know where you're coming from and know where you're going, and then people can make a decision, okay, yeah, you know, there's more good there and more things I can agree with than those things I can't. And Dr. Fulani was not compromising her position on things, and that's why I liked her, because then, even though if I didn't agree with everything, at least I knew where she was coming from, and therefore, and I figured if I worked with it, then I could have a mechanism where I can bring some of my political and social ideas into the forefront. And that's really why I wanted to get involved, because I wanted to bring some of my ideas into play and work with people who basically had some ideas of their own. If people are taught that you can only be or should be this or that, without even analyzing whether this or that was in your best interest, people will just, in a Pavlovian manner, continue to do these things. But if people have models out there that says, well, look, even if you don't agree with these different things, there are alternatives. And I think it's important that people be given the message that, you know, whether you like the system or not, there are alternatives that you can begin to exercise and manipulate and utilize. You do not have to stay with the status quo. And I think that message is the one that the two-party system doesn't ever want to get out there, because when people know that they don't have to just accept what's being presented to them, then the ball game is over.